Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to another jazz piano tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at something called tritone substitution. So this is a simple form of reharmonization that's probably the most commonly one used by jazz pianists, and it's quite straightforward to learn as well. So tritone substitution basically involves replacing a dominant seventh chord with another dominant seventh chord that is a tritone away. I'll just quickly explain what a tritone is for those that haven't heard that before. So a tritone is a flat fifth interval. So if we walk up a major scale to the fifth degree and flatten that interval there is a tritone or a flat fifth. And a tritone is the same whether you go up a flat fifth or down a flat fifth. So so for example, if we had a G7 chord and we want to do a tritone substitution, we would replace that G7 with a D flat 7, since that's a tritone away from G. So G7 becomes D flat 7. Now the reason this works is because if we look at a G7 chord, the third and seventh of that are B and F. If we look at D flat 7 chord, the third and seventh are B and F, just upside down. So because these two chords both share the same third and seventh, they can be interchanged with each other. So let's have a look at this working in a couple of different contexts. So we'll look at it first in a simple 2-5-1, just with 3-note voicings. So D minor 7, G7, C major 7. So we're going to replace that G7 with a D flat 7. Now notice that all we need to do is change the bass note, and the third and seventh can stay the same. And you can hear how that resolves nicely down to the C major 7. So we've gone from that to that. So let's try that with slightly bigger chord voicings now. So we'll try something like this. So again, we're going to replace the G7 with a D flat 7. Now you might notice that again, the voicing that I used for the G chord, all I have to do is change the bass note. This is a really interesting thing with tritone substitution, is that any voicing that you use for your 5 chord, your original 5 chord, you can keep the same voicing and just change the bass note for tritone substitution, and it will always work. It will change the quality of the chord without really changing any of the notes. So here I was playing a G13 with a flat 9. There's our 13, there's our flat 9. And just by changing the bass note to the D flat, we get a D flat 7 with a sharp 9. So although we've kept most of the notes the same, it kind of changes the sort of colour of that voicing. So we'll have a look at one more voicing. So let's try so here we're just doing a 13 voicing. So there's a 13 with a 9th. If we just change that to a D flat, that then gives us a D flat 7 with a sharp 9 and a sharp 5. So yeah, any voicing that you would normally use on your original 5 chord, you can keep that same voicing and just change the bass note, and it will always work. So let's have a look at this, how how this works in the context of a tune. So we're going to look at All the Things You Are. So here we have F minor 7, B flat minor 7, and now we have E flat 7 that resolves to A flat major 7. So we're going to replace this E flat 7 with its tritone, which would be an A. So that was our original, and now with tritone substitution, now we can take this one step further by putting a 2 chord in front of our tritone substitution. So in this case, we've used A7 as our replacement. So we're going to put an E minor 7 in front of that A7, creating a new 2-5 sequence. So let's hear how that sounds. So we've gone from, that was our original with the E flat 7, to like that. Now the 2 chords will not always work. It depends on the melody note. In this case it works nicely because our melody note is the 3rd of that E minor 7. So it works nicely. It may sometimes be that that melody note clashes with the 2 chord. So just use your ears to determine whether it sounds right. Obviously if you're just improvising, then you can always use the 2 chord because you can adjust your improvising to fit that chord. So, but if you're just playing the melody, it may clash, it may not. So yeah, just use your ears for that one. I'm going to show you one more example of this. We're going to look at it in the context of a turnaround. At the end of a tune, a typical turnaround is 1-6-2-5. So it would tend to be something like a C major 7, A7, D7, G7. So we can use a couple of tritone substitutions here to create a sort of fresher sounding turnaround. So so original A7, D7, G7. So we're going to replace the A7 with E flat 7. Notice again that I'm keeping the voicings the same as I had before. D7 and then D flat 7 to replace the G7. So that's C major 7, E flat 7, D7, D flat 7, back to C. So again, this is creating this nice chromatic bass movement downwards. So our original, and then with the tritone substitution, and we can always change the voicings up a bit as well. Something like that. So yeah, there's a few different examples of how to use tritone substitution. So yeah, the best way to practice doing this is just to go through tunes in the real book, and yeah, look for especially 2-5, 2-5-1 sequences, and just practice substituting the 5 chord for the for its tritone. So yeah, so that's a quick guide to tritone substitution. Hope you guys enjoyed it and found it useful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.